Okay, so I went ahead and I knitted some extra rows so that I could go over this. We're going to do the purl stitch next. And if you look here, these 4 rows of stitching that I did, these are what a knit stitch will make. It almost creates like a back and forth waving motion. Now, if you do a knit stitch and alternate it with the purl stitch, like we're going to do now, this is the design that it makes. See the small V's, they come up and down. However, if you look at the back side, it looks the same as the knit stitch. However, it's much more closely woven. Alright, so to do the purl stitch, you're always going to keep your work facing your working hand. So for me, that's the right hand. So when you do your knit stitch, you do it through the back and you keep the yarn to the back. When you do a purl stitch, the yarn's going to stay to the front and your needle's going to come, so your right hand needle is going to come down over the left needle and you're going to come downward this way. Then you're going to take your yarn, you're going to keep the yarn in the front and you're going to loop it around and you're going to come up and out and then pull it off your left-handed needle. So again, you're going to come downwards, come around, and pull it back through. I'm going to try and keep my thumb out of the way for this one. So you're going to come down. So, alright, there we go. Then you're going to come down and around and pull it through. So if you just did the purl stitch back and forth across each row, it's going to create the same design as the knit stitch, except it's going to be a little more closely woven together. However, if you want to get that flat pattern that's going to give you the V's, that's going to be a purl row followed by a knit row. So we're going to purl all the way to the end. Now, when I'm doing my purls, sometimes I'll come down and then I let it come up because I find I have more control over it that way. You'll figure out which way is most comfortable for you to do it, but you always want to make sure when you're coming in, you're coming down. Where you choose to hold it from there is entirely just based on how comfortable you are with the needles. Alright, so that first row we did the purling. Now to make that flat pattern, you're going to turn it. You're going to keep the tail out of the way. You're going to take your working yarn, and now this row you're going to knit. Now, when you're looking, you can look at the hand that you're working on and you can see that pattern continuing. If you ended up coming and doing a purl and you had your yarn in the front and you purled after you did a purl row, and then you looked at your working side, you see how you're starting to make those knit bumps? That's the difference between just purling and knitting. So that's the purl stitch.